Don Leonard.
Now, when were you born on Chincoteague?
Yes. My mother was a native here, and my dad was what they commonly refer to now as a come here, visiting his family who were fishermen here. And so I was born here, been here most of my life with the exception of little army time, little school time, and been trying to get back here.
What about the ponies growing up? Were they a part of your life? I mean,
They were very much a part of my life, and I can't explain it. My dad used to say, I don't know where he is, but if you'll find the horses, you'll find him. And that's where I was as a child, and that's where I am today. So you can't explain those things, you know. They just happen.
what were the stories you were told as a kid when you said, well, where'd these ponies come from? They're just roaming all over the beach.
Well, the legend of the Spanish galleon has been around for ages, and it's a great story. And I don't want to disrupt it.
Well, how's the story go?
But, well, the story goes that there was a load of small ponies going to South America for mining. And the ship wrecked and the ponies came ashore, and it's a great story. But in facing reality, Chincoteague at one time was inhabited. And there were little sections on Chincoteague, a little settlement here, and then 5 miles further down the beach, another little settlement. Their means of transportation was ponies or horses. They tilled their gardens and carried their seafood products wherever they wanted them to go. And those settlements, as they dispersed, a lot of them, ponies were worth $5 a piece. So rather than transport them where they want to go, they left them there. Consequently, you have the original settlers in this area were livestockmen, not watermen, livestock. They had cattle, sheep, goats. It sustained them. And so ponies being worth what they were, they were dispensable. I think let's mix those in, the ones they released with that Spanish galleon. I think that's the sort of the beginning of ponies on Chincoteague. Incidentally, most all of the beaches from here to Nova Scotia were good grazing grounds, because all of the beaches are sort of separated from the mainland by a little body of water. They didn't have to have any fencing. They just released the animals and let them go where they wanted to. There's a island northeast of Nova Scotia. I'm trying to think of the name.
Cape Breton?
No, it'll come to me in a minute. But anyhow, there are a few ponies there. No one knows how they live because there's very little vegetation on the island, yet there must be enough to sustain them. Then you jump to Chincoteague. There's a few on the Outer Banks. The herds are vastly reduced by the government agencies who own the property. Then you get down to Cumberland Island, which is the last island in Georgia before you get to the Florida line. There's a few there. But outside of that, they're the only wild herd east of the Rockies.
Well, now, how did the fire department come to own the ponies?
Well, the fire department started in the early 20s. They had a major fire here which damn near burned the business section of the town down, and they had a bucket brigade. That's all they had. Well, it was obvious they were going to have to develop a fire department, and they started like most of these little fire departments with cake bakes and little contributions, $1 or $2. They finally got involved with an annual carnival. Well, they programmed that carnival at the same time the pony penning was taking place. The ponies were owned by a fellow by the name of Joe Pruitt, and he leased the grounds over on Chincoteague, and he had cattle and ponies. In the late 30s, he died. Well, by that time, the pony penning had become quite an affair. And it was obvious to the fire company, if we don't get involved in the ownership of ponies, we're going to lose this attraction to our carnival. So that compelled them to get in the pony business. And that's how they got started in the pony business. They bought most of Mr. Pruitt's herd. They were later, about that same time, Fish and Wildlife acquired the Virginia portion of Chincoteague. They granted the fire company a grazing permit not to exceed 150 brood stock. So it's developed from there and is very much the same now as the contract spelled out in the 40s.
Well, what did a pony get at pony penning in the 30s at the auction when they auctioned off the ponies?
$5, $10. Last year, the average was $2,061 each. So inflation has taken its toll there, fortunately, for us.
It's work to fund the fire department.
Yes. And all of the money, there are no salaried people in the fire department. All of the money is spent not always wisely, but nevertheless, for the benefit of the community and buying equipment, etc.
That's nice.
They're sort of like the government. Although they work and make the money, they don't care much how they spend it. And so everybody's free with somebody else's money, you know. So, but they have a great organization, but one of the problems now, there's so much work involved that nobody wants to belong to it anymore.
What kind of work?
Well, the state has stepped in now, and state says you may have to have X number of hours of training, either fire department or EMTs. It takes an awful lot of time just to qualify. You have to be certified by the state. In addition to that, there's the maintenance of the equipment, the maintenance of the building, preparation for the carnival. That's a lot of work. Yeah. And people are so involved now, you know, they don't have time for it.
Well, now,
so we got the money, but we don't have the personnel.
Yeah. For somebody who's never been here to pony penning, who's maybe just read a newspaper article about it, describe pony penning for me, would you? From before the ponies swim over, what exactly happens?
Well, we became a media event. When I came along, it was all done in one day. You leave here before day mornings, and you go from the Maryland line, and sometimes above the Maryland, Virginia line. You had all the ponies down by approximately mid-afternoon to the swim area. Well, if you had a mishap, this bunch got away, that bunch got away, and you didn't meet the deadline of having them, which happened once in a while. And all these thousands of people around waiting for the pony swimming, you've lost the herd. So now they start penning. Fact of the matter is, they'll start this afternoon for what they call the spring penning. They'll pin all the ponies on the south end. Tomorrow morning, they'll go up to the Maryland line and they'll brush everything down to the corral on the north end. The veterinarian will examine the herd. If they have one that they can't treat there, they'll bring it up here. Treat it here until it's recovered, and then they won't bother them anymore until pony penning. Then after pony penning in the fall, they'll pen them again. Give them a veterinary scrutiny, do the same thing, give them the shots they need. So they're penned 3 times a year.
But then they swim across?
Only on pony penning. The swim is just easier than driving them or any other means of getting them to the island because they're accustomed to swimming. They're natural swimmers. A colt can swim at 1 day old. If it can walk, it can swim. So you just have to be careful not to jam them up too tight, give them plenty of room, and make out fine.
Is that fun? Do you swim your horse across?
No, I used to, but
that must have been fun.
well, it's fun, but it's dangerous. I damn near drowned a mare one time trying that, and the publicity you get as a result of that is not good.
Yeah.
Consequently, they don't do that anymore.
Well, how many people show up now?
Well, the media's estimates anywhere from 25 to 75,000. I rather think it's on the lower end of that rather than the higher end. But when you read the newspapers, sometimes they dub it as 75,000 people. I don't believe it, but nevertheless.
Even 25,000 is a lot of people to watch horses swim.
Well, it's become a national event, international in fact. We got people come here from foreign countries to see it. So with that many people around, you got to be careful with the event, you know.
What do you think the attraction is? What is it that makes those people come?
Well, it's the only place in the world that I know that you can see ponies swim, for one thing. Plus, Marguerite Henry with the book Misty became a norm for most children. We have people coming here now who read the book Misty as a child and are now bringing their family here who have also read Misty. So it's like I told you a while ago, you never know which way a child's going to lean. They may become pony lovers, and by damn, if they're pony lovers, you bet your sweet life they're going to come to Chincoteague sometime. So that's the way it happens. We sell the things all over the world. They're in most every state that I know of and in some foreign countries. So they're pretty well known. And they want to know, well, tell me about the pedigree of the Chincoteague pony. The Chincoteague pony is a Heinz 57 variety of every kind of pony you can mention. There's Welch, Arabian, Hackney, Mustang. They're a Duke's mixture of everything. They're smaller than a horse, but I think much of that is due to their diet. They're hardy as a pony can possibly be. Sometimes I take a sick one to the veterinarian and he'll tell me if that were a blooded horse, it would be dead. So they're tough. And generally good-mannered, some exceptions to that, but so they become a children's pony.
What's your favorite part of the July event, the swim and everything else?
The money. Of course, I like the activities. I like anything associated with ponies, but when you put it all together, we do it for the money. Now, if there was no money involved, I would still have ponies, don't misunderstand me, but you asked what I like. Like everybody else, I like the money. It isn't mine, but I like to see the fire company make the money.
Well, it helps keep the island safe, and I guess in the long run, it's really helped put Chincoteague on the tourist map.
I'll give you an idea of how far-reaching that is. Our economy was staggering. The seafood industry was declining. We had a chicken industry here which was declining. The Chamber of Commerce in Kiwanis were trying to get something going. Everybody we'd contact in the state said tourism is your only possible chance of a viable economy. So the Kiwanis, of which I was active then in Kiwanis, they stumbled on the idea to get a bridge to Chincoteague. To make a long story short, they sold it to Fish and Wildlife. They put together the financing package. They ultimately got a bridge to Chincoteague. That became our industry. In my opinion, it was because of the ponies. For example, Roger Martin, who later became Secretary of Interior, at a meeting in Washington one time in which I attended, said he wanted to see the ponies run free on Chincoteague for his great-great-great-grandchildren to see. Prior to that time, Fish and Wildlife was toying with an idea of cutting the size of the herd to 20. But after Roger Martin made that statement, they scrapped the idea and maintained it at 150. So I think the attraction of the ponies was instrumental in our getting a bridge to Chincoteague. Consequently, I think they're responsible for our tourist industry today. That's pretty far-reaching now. Nevertheless, I think so. For example, I built a motel over just before you get to the National Seashore Park, called a Refuge Inn. I built it because I knew the attraction to the park, including the ponies, was a worthy attraction for the future. Fact of the matter is, we got ponies out there next to the motel right now. So I think the ponies are responsible for a lot of things that's happened on this island.
That's great.
Whether that's true or not, that's my opinion, or whatever that's worth.
No, I think that's exactly the reason, because it distinguishes Chincoteague from
Yeah.
all the other beach resorts
Right.
around, and in fact, it's better to have Chincoteague as wildlife because it's virgin beach. When was that bridge built?
The bridge was built in 1960. Started building it in 1962. Finished it in about 64. Of course, Park Service has recently torn the old bridge down, put a new one there. Has a bright future, I think.
And the bridge from the mainland's fairly new too, isn't it?
Yes, they built part of it last year, finished it last year. They'll start with the new one, the channel bridge, main channel bridge, maybe next year. So all of the bridges will be new. But they've been there since 39. 50 years, I guess, is the average life expectancy of a bridge.
So when you were a kid, though, you had to take a boat to get to the
No,
mainland.
not when I was a kid.
No?
I was born in 26. They put the bridge there in, I think it was 22. So when I came along, the bridge was already there. I'll tell you a story about everybody who lived here had to get to the mainland by boat. And we were an isolated island. Well, some of the people who lived here, if they wanted a pair of shoes, they had to go somewhere else to get them. Or thought they did. Sort of like today, you know, you got a store next door, but you got to go to the mall somewhere to buy something. Well, it was customary, if you wanted somebody that was going to mainland to pick you up a pair of shoes, you give them a stick with your foot size. Cut the stick off the same length as your foot, and whoever went to the store, they take that stick with them, they bring you back a pair of shoes. So a guy goes over there this is a local story. He goes over there and decides, while he's there, get him a pair of shoes, and he goes in the store and he said, "Damn, I forgot my stick." So he left and come back home and got his stick and went back. Oh, me.
That's a great one. Well, those are my questions. Anything I forgot to ask, Mr. Kurt? I think that's great, Don. He forgot his stuff.
All right.
Fire away.
That's it.
So they eat the hay in the winter, and then they eat the wild grasses in the summer?
Well, I start feeding hay and corn 15th of December and stop at 15th of March. So I give them a little bit of hay and a little bit of corn for those 3 months. Then they're on their own. All they get then is what they find out here in the marsh. Okay, that chore is done.
Go right on ahead.
Go on.
How are you gonna get out?
We'll come out behind you. We're not here.
Okay.
Here.